You know, it's one of the most frustrating things in personal finance. You work hard, you build up a great income, and you assume your credit score should be perfect, right? But it's not. So today, let's get into the really surprising reason why your salary has almost nothing to do with your FICO score.
I mean, it's the question so many high earners ask themselves. You've got more than enough cash in the bank to cover all your bills, so why does your score sometimes bounce around like you're some kind of financial risk? It honestly feels backward, but believe it or not, there is a very specific and kind of strange logic behind it all.
Now you're probably looking at this chart and thinking, wait a minute, this says higher income equals a higher score. And you're not wrong. The data shows a really clear trend. On average, people who earn more do have better scores. But, and this is the absolute key, that's a correlation, not causation. And that little difference changes everything.
And boom! This quote from the experts at Aspirant just cuts right to the chase. The FICO algorithm literally has no idea how much money you make. It doesn't even have a box to check for income. So if your huge salary isn't a factor, what is?
Well, to really solve this puzzle, we have to look at the real DNA of your score. We've got to understand what FICO was actually designed to measure in the first place. And spoiler alert, it is not what most people think it is.
Okay, if you only remember one thing from this explainer, make it this. A FICO score is not a report card on your wealth. It's a very specific tool that has one and only one job, to predict the odds that you'll be 90 days late on a payment in the next 2 years. That's it. It's all about your behavior with borrowed money, not the balance in your checking account.
In this chart right here, this shows you everything that goes into that score. Just look at the pieces of the pie. You see payment history, that's the biggest one. You see amounts owed. But what don't you see? Yeah, your salary, your net worth, your investment portfolio, none of that is in there. The score is only about how you manage debt. And that, my friends, creates some really unique traps for high earners.
So this is where it gets really interesting. Because the FICO algorithm is totally blind to your income, some of the most common habits of successful people can actually look like giant red flags. Let's see how this plays out in the real world.
The single biggest, most common trap is your credit utilization ratio. Now, it sounds complicated, but it's a super simple idea. It's just the amount of credit you're using compared to your total limit, but it accounts for a massive 30% of your entire score.
So let's just walk through a really common scenario, okay? Imagine you use your main credit card for everything 1 month. Maybe some business travel, a home reno project, you're taking clients out to dinner, and you end up charging, say, $30,000.
And let's say that card has a $40,000 limit. Now for you, this is no big deal at all. You have the cash, and you are absolutely going to pay that entire balance off before a single penny of interest hits. Easy.
But here's the trap. Your credit card company reports your balance on your statement closing date. So even if you pay it all off the very next day, for that one snapshot in time, the FICO algorithm sees this, a 75% utilization rate. It doesn't see your big income, it just sees a nearly maxed out credit card, and it flags that as a huge sign of potential financial distress.
And sometimes the rules just feel completely bizarre. Take this Reddit user. He did what he thought was the most responsible thing. He paid his balance down to 0 before it was even reported. And what happened? His score dropped 24 points. Why? Because the algorithm can actually penalize you for having no recent credit usage. As he puts it, strange, but it is what it is.
And the traps go way beyond just utilization. You know, closing an old credit card to clean things up can actually crush your score by shortening your credit history. And because high earners often have really complex finances, a single missed payment, maybe a bill gets sent to the wrong address or just gets lost in the shuffle, can be absolutely devastating. For someone with a great score, just one 30-day late payment can tank it by over 100 points.
Ouch.
So if the FICO score is completely ignoring your income, where does your salary actually matter? Well, this is where lenders pull out a completely different tool from their toolbox.
And that tool is called your debt-to-income ratio, or DTI. Now, in this calculation, your income is the absolute star of the show. It's a simple formula that just shows lenders what percentage of your monthly income is already spoken for by debt payments so they can see if you have the capacity to handle taking on more.
And right here, this is how we solve the whole paradox. Just think about it like this. Your FICO score determines the price you pay for credit. That's your interest rate. Your DTI ratio, which is all about your income, determines the quantity of credit you can get, your loan amount. So you could have an income that qualifies you for a massive loan, but a mediocre FICO score that forces you to pay a terrible price for it. It's behavior versus capacity.
So the big takeaway here is that you have to start managing your credit score just as actively as you manage your stock portfolio. It really is a valuable asset, and you can't just sit back and assume your income is going to protect it.
So here's a simple 4-step game plan to manage your score like the asset it is. First, you got to smooth out your utilization so you never report a high balance. Second, don't close old accounts. Let them sit there and get older. Third, segregate your business spending onto dedicated business cards that don't report to your personal credit. And finally, manufacture a little bit of activity, like a Netflix subscription, on any unused cards to keep them active. Following these steps puts you in the driver's seat.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. A top-tier FICO score can literally save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest over your lifetime. It's not just some random number, it's a powerful financial asset. So are you managing it as strategically as you manage everything else in your portfolio?